I'm delighted to be here today. I'm Gordon Drummond. I'm president of Sessions College. We are here today to interview Virginia-based creative pro Deniz Coker. Say hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Yeah, that's him. He is a creative professional who earned his first degree in design and technology at two of America's most respected institutions, Parsons School of Design and NYU. This happened a few years back. And when Dennis's career progressed, design and technology were two keynotes of his career. He went on to pursue a variety of different roles. He's been a producer at 21st Century Fox, Walt Disney. He's been a manager and strategy consultant for major media and entertainment brands. And even in recent years, he's worked as an ad product manager for Microsoft, working on casual games such as Solitaire, Mahjong, Jigsaw, and Treasure Hunt. Whew! Four things that probably, consume a lot of time for a lot of people in a very fun kind of way. So if you spent countless hours on these apps, please thank him. So in this Sessions Live event, why we're interviewing Dennis, why are we doing this? We have career questions that are highly relevant to our student audience who are aspiring creative pros. Some of the things we're going to find out are, how do you translate a foundation in design into a career into digital media, which is an always changing field? How can you, if you're a creative pro, adapt from being a designer and a content creator to being a strategist or an advertiser, someone who operates at a higher level to the creative process? And career-wise, fundamentally, once you get the foot in the door, how can you develop a career, stay fresh and fulfilled as you take on new opportunities? So co-hosting this interview with me will be our dean and beloved faculty member, Dr. Meryl Epstein. Her own career has crossed multiple worlds in art, design, and education and more. So with that, I hand over to you, Meryl, and welcome, Dennis, and can't wait to hear what your insights from your career.
That's great. Thanks, Gordon. All right, Dennis. So we're going to look at some examples shortly of your work and the kind of media projects you've been managing recently. Well, your work is not always fun and games, but it seems that your work is fun and games. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your current client projects and how they came about.
Yeah. So I spent the last couple of years with Microsoft as a consultant, consulting for their, as you mentioned, Microsoft Casual Games division. And I worked on the product capacity, and it was just such a fantastic time. Wrapped that up recently, and I've started a couple of projects of my own that have been on the back burner. I've just been too busy to do, and can't give too many details yet. I was kind of skirting around them a little bit earlier, but still kind of gaming related, and also with maybe a physical interactive component, which is something that has always kind of been near and dear to my heart. It's something I did a lot of very early in my career, and then it all went to computers and screens for a while. And so having like a physical component to stuff is really, really cool. So looking forward to that. So been up to some of that.
Well, fortunately, you're in a field that's constantly evolving. I always say people need to have their running shoes on because you're always moving from one thing to the other, and also technology is hard to keep up with. So to give our audience an idea of the kind of work that you've been working on, we've asked you to put together a slideshow to present and discuss some recent projects. So if you could show us that, and then we'll talk to you on the flip side.
Sounds good. Here, let me go ahead and share that presentation. There we go. Put together a little slideshow, and I think this will help kind of, give you a lay of the land of what my crazy background in life has been like. I started actually around theater a lot, and that was kind of a big thing for me growing up with theater. And I found myself really content on the lighting side, and so I did a lot of lighting for theater around high school and when I was younger, and just community theater, just volunteering here and there. That was such a big thing for me, along with just trying to do creative stuff, stop motion work, little animated movies here and there. Kind of found I had a passion for this stuff. That got me into Parsons, and then to the design technology program. And I'll kind of gloss over that a little bit, but design technology was kind of a new experimental thing back then, and so they just kind of merged them together and said, "Hey, let's have this program that is just as experimental. Let's just experiment with up and coming things." And it was everything. It was people doing video games. It was people doing interactive. It was people doing like mashups of found content. It was film people. It was people who wanted to do animation. It was like everything just kind of pushed together to kind of see, hey, what comes out of this. And so that first year at Parsons was really, really cool because it's the foundation year. And in foundation, they expose you to everything. They teach you the fundamentals of design. You go through uh, physical design, some product design, some fashion, everything. This was, I'm going to date myself here. This was around the time when Project Runway was at Parsons. And so, Tim Gunn was
Oh, that's
still
great.
very involved in the faculty and got to go to some of his lectures, which was mind blowing. It's very, very cool. So I did that for a little bit and then realized that I really liked the film aspect of it. And I really, really wanted to focus more just on like film and media. And so I decided to make the decision to transfer to NYU, which was a very, uh, very prominent film school. And they had kind of a very uh, classic film pipeline where you would learn about cinematography, editing, history, all that. So I made the jump to NYU. Um, and around that time, I started working in the film business, surprisingly. So that's my first slide. Uh, and I just kind of cobbled together what few pictures I have. I was behind the camera, so there weren't very many pictures of me doing camera stuff. But I worked with as an intern and a production assistant with this company, East Pleasant. They're no longer around, but they were just a wonderful, wonderful people who took me under their wing and showed me everything. I mean, there's still a couple people from there I'll keep in touch with that, just kind of threw me into the fire. And I remember one of my early days. Uh, I was really into visual effects at the time, and they put me just into a suite, into an edit suite, and for this major drink brand, and said, "Hey, we need you to rotoscope some stuff. Can you knock this out?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do it." I was a scared kid, but I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I just remember being like so nervous, having like such imposter syndrome, but also just being like, "This is happening. I can't believe this is happening." So. They trusted me to do that, and I'm really really thankful for that. And worked with them and kind of worked my way through both the post department and on set in the camera department as well. Kind of doing a little bit of everything, lighting, which I've done some before the theater, some camera work, assisting camera, grip, all that. And then from there, I left and started doing freelance work. So all this is going on while I'm doing NYU. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between like doing film and then taking on projects and freelancing and doing documentary and then just kind of going back and forth, doing some commercial and documentary, I should say. Did that for a little bit, and so that was kind of a really interesting time because I was kind of learning as I went, both like trial by fire and like academically. And I think like if you have control over this, maybe try to do the academic part first, like a normal person, because it's hard doing both at once. It's really a lot to cram, but I kind of hung in there and did a
Dennis,
little bit
you
of
don't
both.
need to tell us your grades. You don't need to tell us your grades. It's okay. Safe space.
I had a very very I had wonderful like academic advisors, and they were very understanding of days where I remember there were days when I would just come from a shoot and go straight to class, and they drop me off in a production truck, and like you would just see like this big production vehicle roll up to the campus building, and then I just like stumble out, and I just been on set for like 12 hours, and I look like a mess. It's like, all right, I'll see you. Time to go to class, and kind of stumble in, and it was such a wild time, but it was really cool. It really taught me a lot about the industry from a hands-on perspective, and I think the grounding part of it was that I think in college we all tend to be very optimistic. We all think, hey, I'm going to come out of here and I'm going to be a director and I'm going to be a cinematographer. And like you can be those things, but there's also a lot of stuff that you have to sometimes go through to get to those things. And so for me, it was very grounding in that I was the low man in the totem pole for like a really long time, and just kind of did all the stuff that no one else wanted to do on set. And that just led to doing the things that to eventually being trusted to do the things that maybe you do want to do here and there, and having some people kind of take you under their wing and show you things here and there. So I always really appreciated that and tried to keep that sense of like helping others. If you can help someone else that's trying to come up in the industry, or at least open a door for them, or at least kind of give them an in, like that's always something that's really really important. So did that for a while, and then that led to me doing some of this stuff that led to me doing more physical stuff. Around the time, I was starting to get more and more involved with like trade shows and theme parks, and there is a group called the Themed Entertainment Association, and they focus on theme park work, theme park development. They'll do science centers and museum exhibits and all that. And so there's a whole creative world that just does these things. And that was kind of new to me. Like I didn't know that was a job. Like I would go on family vacations to theme parks and places, and I didn't realize that like obviously someone has to make it, but you know, it just kind of dawned on me like, wow, someone designs this, someone makes this. This is cool. And so I started doing some freelance work in that space uh, because there was kind of this big conglomeration of well, that's not a word of tech and film and media and interactivity all coming together. And you know, a lot of the inherent concepts of that field came from film. I mean, a lot of it came from the early days of something like Disneyland, where they built this theme park and there was nothing like it at the time. And so at the time, I'll put my Disney hat on for a little bit. Walt Disney went to his studio and plucked a whole bunch of film people and said, "Hey, design me a park." And they were kind of like, "Okay, sure, we're animators, but yeah, how do we do this?" And so what they had to do was figure out how to tell a story using a physical world around you, using actual space. And so instead of maybe having frames and camera movement, you had rides, you had pathways, you had walkways, and you can really kind of control the sight lines of what people were seeing and doing. And so I started doing some creative work in that space and wound up working with a company, Blue Telescope, who I believe are still around. They're incredibly wonderful. They were really neat because they were very much willing to take chances on creativity and technology, and really wanted to do some cool stuff. We did a lot of science centers. So here is an exhibit on the Rubik's Cube that we worked on, which was really kind of nice because they got like Ernesto Rubik to work on it. And this was at the Liberty Science Center in New Jersey. I'm from New York originally, by the way. And so this was all in New York. And I was spending a lot of time down in Florida with the theme park industry and kind of going back and forth, and this started happening. So this exhibit actually wound up touring the world, but we worked on science centers for the whole world, everywhere from like Turkey to you name it. It really kind of spanned the globe, the things we worked on. And I was also really lucky in that at the time I was spending a lot of time around Walt Disney Imagineering and around like Universal Creative, which was their answer to Disney Imagineering. And there were just so many wonderful people who took me under their wing, people who worked with Walt Disney himself back in Disneyland, who were willing to tell me things and teach me things, which you know was kind of mind blowing. People that I've read about in books or seen on like documentaries that were like, oh yeah, how we did this, and you know it's really kind of crazy. I remember one day when we were in Orlando with a couple of my coworkers, and we went to an event for the opening of the new Harry Potter Wizarding World in Universal. And in my ride vehicle were Bob Gurr and Murray Sklar, who were two of Walt Disney's original Imagineers who designed Disneyland. And going through this ride with them, seeing the look on their faces of this, as they experienced this attraction. These are people who invented this industry, and they got to experience what it was like in I forget what year that was, but in the 2010s, I think they got to experience, you know, the newest iteration of storytelling and technology and media, and they were just completely overwhelmed by it. And I just thought, wow, like that is such a cool experience. So yeah, stuff like that really kind of lives with you, and it just really kind of makes you want to experiment more and push the boundaries more. And so here's kind of some of that. Where let's see, I think that was a photo working on a new place in San Antonio. I think it's called the Museum, which is a children's museum. Children's museums are really fun because they really encourage you to play and interact, and there's a lot of stuff that you can touch and try and run around with. And then so top right, there's some media stuff. I did a lot of physical interfacing stuff, and it was cool in that I kind of got encouraged to just play with things and just kind of break things and you know be creative in different ways. And so I played with the content. I played with doing like seamless projection mapping stuff and all kinds of weird ideas, and you know lots of late nights just trying to come up with off ball stuff. Like I have a piece of an audio animatronic on the bottom right that I was working on, and some of the mechanisms of that we actually used 3D modeled models to animate these physical animatronics so that we can kind of animate them like a movie, and then we can just transfer that, download that animation cycle right to a physical animatronic that can then interact with guests and you know really show them like something cool that lines up with maybe something that was in a movie. You can kind of do a one-to-one transfer. So stuff like that was really just crazy. Uh, did that for a while and really, really enjoyed doing that. Um, and then things got kind of interesting. Then I wound up going here to Fox. And so at this time, Fox bought a startup company called Truex that was an interactive advertising firm. And they were a startup at the time. They'd been around for a little bit. And they bought them and they were looking for some producers to come in and help them kind of grow this team of producers for the creative studio that they had. And so I took it. My wife and I both moved to Los Angeles, and we kind of embarked on this journey. And it was kind of a really crazy time because we were under 21st Century Fox, which is their entire movie division. I mean, they have everything. I mean, back and this is before the Disney merger, so Fox Searchlight, FX. They were really just like gung ho on putting out good movies, putting out indie movies, putting out blockbusters. This was the time of like The Martian, and this was the time of The Revenant, and all these big Hidden Figures, all these movies that kind of went out and won a lot of awards. And so at the same time, we were pioneering the advertising part of it, which was how can we make ads that don't suck? Like how can we make ads that people actually care about, that are relevant? And so the Truex concept was you would get this screen that would say, okay, you have two choices. You can either choose to watch commercials throughout the show like you normally would, or you can choose an interactive ad. And you can do an interactive ad right now, and there will be no commercials for the rest of the program. And yes, not surprisingly, a lot of people chose, yeah, I don't want commercials in the rest of the program. And the interactive stuff was really cool. It was always like some brand that they probably cared about. Here's just a little lockup of some of that stuff. We worked with a lot of these different brands, and
This was happening on a TV, not on a online, or was it online?
Mhm. Everywhere, TV, mobile,
Wow.
and on desktop. So it rolled out it rolled out on TV and mobile, on desktop and mobile first, and I had to kind of work to transition that to TV because this is again when CTV, streaming TV, was just starting to happen. It was a new thing, and we had to figure out like how we're going to run ads on this new platform. And so we did, and it was kind of a mess because we had to figure out what to do for every single piece of hardware. You know, before we could just push stuff on the web, and the web is the web, whatever. But now we're doing different TVs like Samsung, Hisense, Sony, all LG, all these brands, and then all the different types of hardware. So it's on Apple TV or Fire Stick or whatever. So the really cool thing with Fox was so good to us. They really let us explore and work across the lines of all their different brands. I mean, we got to do stuff for Deadpool where we did an ad where we got like Ryan Reynolds to do the voiceover and be like, hey guys, like come check us out and choose the interactive option. And we did a Super Bowl spot for our Amazon Echo, Amazon Alexa, back when it was still new, and they wanted us to simulate their voice activated controls within an ad, and so we had to figure out a way to do that. Mind you, like over 10 years ago, before like AI or voice activated was really a thing, so we had to kind of figure out a way to like make it feel like an actual working Alexa device when it's just through your computer. And we got astronaut Mark Kelly to do the voiceover for that for the Super Bowl, and that was really cool.
Powering down. Powering up. Powering down.
She says she's doing it, but I don't see anything. Do you? Holy.
Because it was in the space station, so we did like a little space station that was powered by the Amazon Alexa, and Mark Kelly was like the commander of the space station. He'd like narrate it, and it was, stuff like that was really cool. So having the weight of something like Fox behind you was really cool. And at this time, so I was overseeing everything we did from a producer perspective, from the West Coast and the Midwest regions. And then we had an East Coast team as well that kind of broke off, and they would handle more of like some of the consumer packaged goods and stuff like that. But we handled all the motion picture content and TV content, and that was really cool working with that. And I had a little team of producers working under me, and they were just incredibly hardworking, incredibly smart, bright people who really just kind of inspired you to go out and do more. And we had a creative team that handled all the the like Photoshop design work as well, and then we had strategists handling all the writing, and the account and sales teams who kind of went out and sold, and we all just worked together. And I mean, these were smart people. I mean, the creative directors I work with there, the art directors, and they were just like so good and smart that you really want to like level up your game working around people like this. So, and at the same time, I'll go back one slide real quick, but I chose these pictures because I thought it was really meaningful. At the end of the day, top right, it's one of the Fox sound stages, and when the Fox lot where they film log motion pictures, it's not open to the public. And so I would make it a point to go there with my team, and at least once a week, just walk the lot and just kind of take it in and just kind of remember where we are and what we're doing. And I've always thought it's really important to just do that, to just have those grounding moments where you just think like, guys, we're here. We're on a back lot. And they were always really cool about letting you just walk into things and just kind of peek through what they were filming. So you can kind of peek through the door and filming stuff and shows and whatnot. So I definitely made sure that was something that we've been experiencing that we all got, because I think that it's important as you go through different experiences in life to just make sure that you take a moment, just take a beat and just like enjoy it, just take it in. You've worked really hard to get to where you are, and make sure you enjoy that moment. Eventually, I was part of the Fox acquisition of Disney, so I wound up going to Disney. This was not the first time Disney's been in my life, but it was fun handling ad stuff with Disney as well. Did that for a while, and then wound up going solo with a little consultancy I started, Deniz Coker Productions, and started working with some interesting folks out of California again. At this time, I moved back to the East Coast, and so I worked with a buddy of mine who has his company Develop, and he's up in San Francisco, and he did a whole bunch of CTV innovation, and so him and another gentleman I've worked with before, all of us kind of knew each other. We'd all kind of worked together. We were all members of the Television Academy. That was another really cool Disney thing. Like I got to go to the Emmys back when Fox was there, and like that was like, I don't belong here, but I got to go, and it was a really really fun time, and again taking the moments, so you get to walk down the little carpet thing, and you see all the like really important people getting interviews and stuff, and you're just kind of like, oh, I'm here, like, hi. just gonna pass behind you. Don't mind me. Sorry, bump into you. and sit in the nosebleed sections, and like I think that's Leonardo DiCaprio down there, but but no, it was a lot of fun, and so wound up working with some of these guys from the Television Academy, and the Television Academy was really cool is they had an interactive media peer group that we were all a part of, and they were all about interaction and like how do we take this streaming TV platform and do something really cool with it. And so we worked together on a whole bunch of stuff for years and years. And one thing that we worked together with was like an example of like Fubo TV. That was something we worked together on the CTV side of figuring out like how do we make this product more compelling? How do we really reach people with something that's relevant to them that they care about? And so started taking on individual creative projects. We did a whole bunch of experimental stuff, or some projects that wound up at like CES, NAB, just new concepts for interactive streaming, ways of conveying information in a way that people can interact with you, like little weather overlays or games that pop up on your TV. So it's really cool to once again just kind of get partnered with people who cared about the side of television that was a little more fun and playful. So that led to me moving on to Microsoft and working on this stuff, solitaire and casual games and mahjong. And once again, this is just one of those times where you're just like, this is the big leagues. Like I had that feeling going to like Fox and like Disney, and you're like, wow, this is crazy. But like Microsoft is really like, wow, this is crazy. Like you realize these people are so smart. Like the people working that you're just working around are just so smart, and it's such an immense legacy product. I think that was kind of the biggest challenge of it, was going from doing really really experimental stuff to now doing a very legacy product where you're just kind of stewarding it. and you're still innovating and you're still kind of trying to grow it and make sure everything's good. But you're you're not gonna you don't want to nuke the core of what solitaire is or mahjong is or any of those games are. And so that was kind of a really nice change of pace of kind of understanding like, okay, how do we take this mature thing and still kind of inject some creativity and some fun into it while still kind of keeping it true to what it's originally supposed to be. And so,
Dennis, I have a quick question.
yeah,
So when you're showing these projects like the solitaire, for example, what was your role on that project?
oh
You know,
boy,
like
this
were
is
you hired as a consultant and then you gave them feedback, or were you part of the team?
yeah. So I, even though I was a consultant with Microsoft, when you're a vendor, you can work within the team. And so I had like a at Microsoft email for a number of years and just worked directly in the casual games ad product division. And so our role was all the ads within the gaming system. And so we would have ads within the games that show up. We have ads before the game. We have like ways of just various ways of monetizing this. And so it was twofold. It was one, it was the actual ad experience and the actual ad ecosystem. Like how do we create this ad environment within this gaming system? And then there's also the less glamorous side of how do we make sure that this is compliant because we reach people all over the world. So how do we comply with all rules and policies for privacy and all that? And so kind of combining those two in a way that gave people an experience that was valuable, but also still kind of respectful of their decisions and privacy choices and whatnot, was a big component of it. So that was mostly what I worked on there, was working with all of our ad partners and vendors and trying to get this ad ecosystem firing on all fours, and really really interesting stuff. Did that through winter winter last winter I think. Um, and then started working on some stuff that I tabled, as I mentioned. That was just a little mix of some digital and physical interactive things that I kind of did maybe back in my theme park days. And it's been great to give myself a little time to kind of really dive into some pet projects that I wanted to do for a really long time. So I know I just talked a whole lot, but I'm going to stop sharing and then yield the floor.
Oh no, that's fantastic. And I think more than anything else, it shows that you never know, like a career is not a straight line. And it leads to other things, but it's being awake along the way to embrace those opportunities that you described. And also, I think more than anything else, is you get to work with really smart people and embrace that. I had a boss. I worked in museums as well, the Arizona Science Center, and my boss was great, and he said, hire really creative, smart people and get out of their way. And I agree with that. You really have to empower creative people, not put them on a leash. And I think that's a challenge when you're leading, but at the same time you can cover a lot of ground. So related to that, you have 2 degrees. You sort of gathered a lot of skills from your design background and also the multimedia. So because you were doing your undergraduate, when you were gathering those diverse skills, did you have in mind what kind of career you wanted, or are you just gobbling up skills? I'm just curious, because that's where a lot of our students are. They're passionate about a lot of things, so that kind of guidance is really helpful for them.
Yeah, well, I have this saying, and I didn't invent this, but I've heard it. But it's fail often and fail early. And I always wanted film. I always wanted film and motion picture, and I knew I'd get there one way or another, just if I kept trying. But like most things in life, it's never like a straight like I want to go into film, and here I am today, and I'm going to get up to here, and then it's never a straight line between your goal and your point. You're just kind of like zigzagging between the two. And so, I started working in the industry in film during college. And this was, by the way, during the time when they transitioned from analog to digital. And so that's how old I am. So, we when we first started, I learned to shoot on film on 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter, well, 8 millimeter first with cheap. We didn't know what we were doing. We screw up on 8 millimeter, and then graduate to 16 millimeter, and then 35. And then, you have to really, really be like, oh, this is expensive. This costs a lot of money to develop per like foot of film. And you have to like do the math and figure out like how much can I afford to shoot? And like, I know this sounds crazy to people now because you just like record everything on your camera, but the really nice thing that taught us was, like, before you pull the trigger on the camera, you really want to make sure that what you're going to capture is worth it. And that really sticks with you even when you go to digital. Is, yes, it may be free to record things as many times as you want, but you really want to be able to make it worthwhile. And it was easier to do that when you had hard costs associated with it. But I always wanted to do film and start working there and realize how hard that was. And I had people who were working with me to shoot some of the projects I had. And I realized, like, wow, like I really have to be out there, like constantly booking new projects, new gigs and new things just to make sure these guys are busy. And because if I didn't have something coming in, then they had to jump on another project. And then when I did have something come in, then they weren't available. And so it was just kind of this thing where I had to keep doing this. And then so it's always kind of just been like following whatever is the best opportunity in that moment. And you never know what that's going to be, but you just have to kind of be receptive to that and hope that, as you mentioned, people who are there are willing to open a door and let you do what you do.
Right. Well, and I think your strong background in design is spills over into everything. For myself too, I was studied as a graphic designer and then I worked in museums. I was like, it's a brochure you walk into. And so, those foundational skills, sometimes students go, oh, I'm taking color theory or typography, blah, blah, blah. But really that foundation's so powerful because it helps you translate to a lot of forms. I'm going to segue to Gordon now, but thank you for showing the slides. That's great.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you,
sure.
Will. It's a fascinating slideshow, and I want to pick up on some of the things you mentioned that seem to be themes that run through it. For example, you mentioned right at the beginning when you were working in film, you were just starting out, you were given a bunch of roles, and then you just kind of you were embracing doing the things that other folks wouldn't do to sort of learn different roles in the team. And then eventually they gave you a rotoscoping job and you're like, sure. Like, the way you said it sounded like you didn't really know what rotoscoping was, but you were confident enough to say, you know what, I can probably figure that out. I mean, what would you say about that as an important thing for a creative to embrace?
Super important. I mean, there is paying your dues, and that just kind of comes with a lot of industries, and it looks different in every industry. I mean, in film and TV, I mean, as an intern production assistant, you're sometimes just like getting people to sign off on like talent releases. I had to drive production trucks. I had to like pick up talent and like get to the set. Like there was all types of random things you had to do. You have to go to like a prop store and like get like a rubber chicken or something for a shoot. You never know what the day is going to hold. But do those things. Do every single thing you do with excellence. Do everything as good as you can possibly do. Do it, because at the end of the day, those are just indicators as to how you're going to do when you're on the creative front. When you're doing the thing that you actually want to do, when you want to actually be the creative person there, you're you're letting them know that you're capable of doing this thing and that you're responsible, you're reliable. It's not about you. At the end of the day, there are needs of this team that need to be accomplished, and by helping them accomplish those things, then you're now part of that team. And then it's kind of like a bank. Like you have to put money in before you take money out. Like you have to really kind of contribute some time and energy and build these relationships and show that you're trustworthy. Because at the end of the day, if they would have just thrown me into like a rotoscoping thing on day one, like I could have like catastrophically screwed up, and that would have potentially cost money and time. And I could have still screwed up, of course. But it got to the point where they trusted me enough to say, hey, you should give this a try. We think you could do it. And sometimes you need the person who thinks you can do it, even if you think you can't do it, or if you think you're not ready.
Yeah, skill. So it's a combination of skills and willingness and attitude and openness, right, to the possibilities of doing something within a team. There's a lot in what you said also about gaining experience within teams. From realizing that a movie is and your initial experience is a team effort, which depends on everybody, and then going into a more corporate sort of environment, which I imagine it's corporate but creative at Fox and Disney, where you're thinking about the bottom line and all that kind of stuff, more so probably, but you're accustomed to working in teams. So, I mean, how did it feel going from like really independent films to say Fox? That's kind of got to be a bit of a, how do you think about making those changes, going from creative to corporate, for example?
I have to thank one of my college advisors from Parsons. And this lady had worked as the visual effects supervisor for a bunch of for let's say a certain series of sci-fi movies from the early 90s and 80s that people are familiar with. And she kind of found out that I wanted to do all this stuff, and I was just completely just naive and young, and I was like, I'm going to go and be creative, and I'm going to do all this cool creative stuff in the movie industry. And she was like, you realize like there are 1,000 of you working on this project, and you'll be contributing, but your contributions will be a lot smaller. So just don't forget that like there are parts of it that maybe aren't as glamorous, that it's kind of like a factory sometimes where your outcome is producing this motion picture. And that wasn't to take anything away from it, but it was just to kind of level set of like, hey, you're going to be contributing maybe a small piece to a bigger picture, but so is everybody else. And that's what the bigger picture is the finished product is lots of output of all these individuals is contributing, and that's what makes it so good, is because it's just a combination of everybody's combined effort. It's not just like one person's thing, even though we see a director or a producer go up on stage and collect an award and they get all this credit, but really it's all the people mixing the audio, the person holding the microphone, and it's everybody's work. And so that stuck with me, because when you're doing a smaller production, you're everything. You have 5 roles. But then when you do go to somewhere like Fox, that's what it is. It's the combined output. And so, as a producer, we had a dedicated creative team. We had a dedicated strategy team. I kind of knew like, hey, I have this creative background, but I don't want to step on anybody else's toes. I want to make sure that I can do whatever I can to empower everybody around me to do their best. Uh, because at the end of the day, that's what I would want in return. And that's just what's going to help us create the best possible product. And so having that background, I could have been like, oh man, like I'm not the one like doing the creative design for this thing, but it wound up just being a lot of us collaborating, throwing out funny ideas, sometimes terrible ideas, but that's sometimes to get through the terrible ideas to get to the good ideas. And um, it was a lot of just respecting one another and respecting the brilliance of other people and what they bring to the table, and being able to vouch for that, because I was client facing, so I had to go on my client calls and talk to like our other divisions, like if like a motion picture thing coming in, and so being able to say
Well,
like,
that makes sense. I mean, you've been fortunate, and you've also been open to the opportunities. And many of us have that imposter syndrome anyway. And because we don't know everything, and a lot of creatives are perfectionists, but you learn as you go. That being said, how have you seen the industry change, like especially for our students as they're preparing their portfolios? What kind of employment opportunities do you see out there? How has it changed? What advice would you give someone that's looking to graduate within the next semester or two, a year, and how to prepare to enter the field that keeps shifting?
yeah, well, one thing I've realized is, I've had a lot of change in my career, and that's just because the industry changes. I mean, it does. I have to change with the industry as it changes. And so I say this to everyone, your core skills are what ultimately matter. Learning like color theory, learning like basics of composition, and just the basic fundamentals of design. Those will never change, but the material will change. Like, when I first started, the only way you can cut a motion picture was an Avid, and now there's like 35 different ways that people do it. And but that doesn't matter, because the creative content, the creative like uh, nucleus of what you're doing remains the same. It's just the interfacing to get to that final product is what changes ultimately. And so, just know that what things are happening today are going to be different tomorrow, and that's going to keep happening. But there's always going to be that need for creativity, especially in media. And I'll speak towards media specifically, but there is always that need for like smart designers, smart creatives, because at the end of the day, there are very specific needs for a TV show, for a motion picture, and you have to be able to jump in and contribute your thoughts to that. Because as a human, you could think of something that's relevant. You're coming up with ideas and solutions, and you're finding the most relevant and the most appropriate fit for that thing. And that's what makes you really, really important. And so don't get too lost in the tools. It does help to know those things, but ultimately your decision making is what is necessary. And in those environments, that's that's paramount to everything. It's just getting someone and saying, hey, we need to like make this shot look better, and whatever tools are available at that time, how to do that, what decisions to kind of make. And so as far as your portfolio goes, really just being able to show that you understand how to tell a story, you understand how to compose an image, you understand how to how to you understand kind of how to put things together. I mean, have some knowledge of the tools. I mean, learning things like After Effects, Photoshop, those are all great. I think it's important because you do actually kind of need those to do the job these days. But even beyond that, I mean, that might not exist in 5 years. It might be something completely different. And at the end of the day, if you just kind of understand how to communicate, because that's all we're doing, we're communicating. It's just a medium of communication. I think that's going to be the most important thing. And, it's like I said, things ebb and flow in this industry. There's constant change. It's easy to get discouraged, especially with, kind of all the hardships going on in the job market right now. I 100% empathize with everyone, but don't give up. It's you are like incredibly important, and especially in this industry, you're an incredibly important part of that decision making chain, because we need that trained brain somewhere in that stack to be able to help make the decisions needed to be able to tell stories to other human beings.
Well, with that being said, how do you think someone in this mark, I know we have no solutions to what's going on immediately, but how does someone get noticed? I mean, like if you were looking to hire someone, obviously my guess is you would contact your network to find someone that someone knows so that you're not starting from scratch. But if you were a young person now in the just entering the field, what kind of network would you recommend? Are there professional organizations or other things that you would recommend that they
Hmm,
get known by?
that's a very good question. I do think I I do go through the network, but I also kind of like just looking for people with relevant portfolios. Um, there are sites where you can host your portfolio, like Behance and stuff, and I haven't used that one in a while, but I know there's a bunch of them. But have a portfolio, have something that people can see and find you on. You don't have to be like some famous influencer with thousands of followers. Like that doesn't matter. Just kind of do good work and make sure you're getting in front of people. Don't be afraid to like message people. Don't be afraid to apply to jobs. I know there aren't that many postings right now, but like I said, it's all cyclical. It all comes at ebbs and flows. And as productions pick up, they're going to need more people to kind of come in and fill those roles. And so that's an important thing to be able to do, is to be able to kind of slot into those things. So have something to show, but also, do work that you care about. Like do the things that you really want to do. If you don't have a paid project, make something that you are passionate about, and make it as well as you can. And like as well as you can, really, really important. It doesn't have to be as well as someone else can. Like you don't have to make a Hollywood motion picture. No one expects you to do that. Like they'll take out loans and try to film some blockbuster, like unless you want to, but you don't have to. I mean, at the end of the day, if you can just do like, if you want to just do like stop motion and just do stop motion, like do that thing, because at the end of the day, you're showing people how you think and how you decide, and that's what a lot of this is, and it's very fundamental form. It's just decision making and thinking, and applying that through different tools to a medium that is visual. And so don't give up. Like keep doing that, and it'll happen. It'll eventually happen. But you just have to be able to at least show that you can communicate.
No, just pursuing their passion and getting it out there. And now the internet and other mediums, venues allow you that exposure. Gordon, I'm segueing to you. Those are great answers. Thank you.
Yeah, these are great answers and very useful for our students. We have a few student questions that were teed up by folks who registered for the tour today, and generally towards the end of the show, we try to answer student questions, and they kind of relate to things that you were just saying. One student, Johnny, who's in our digital media program, was asking about AI. Who's not interested in AI these days? He said, how can we shift our perspective from AI is a threat, from AI is a competitive advantage? And what tools should we be mastering to show that we're ahead of the curve? Now, so that's a very open-ended question, and I think you could probably answer it various ways. What's your thought if you're entering the market? Like, what do you have to show?
I definitely think there is value in understanding how to use the current tool of the day. It's like back to my point of me being old and when the industry went from analog to digital. Like that doesn't mean conventional filmmaking died with film, but you wanted to adopt to digital to digital filmmaking. You kind of had to, because the studios that we were outputting our content to requested digital master copies and things. So even like if you didn't want to and you want to, no, I want to do analog film, you're forced to do that because that's just how the industry is adapted. And so obviously I would recommend, learn how to use AI, learn how to use it to your advantage. But at the end of the day, when a tool comes out and everybody uses it, then you kind of lose that advantage because that becomes a new baseline. So like it's like Photoshop. Like now everyone has Photoshop. I remember back when Photoshop cost like $1,500 a year, and you had to like buy CDs every year, and you had to like decide if you wanted to upgrade at the end of the year. And like now everyone has it, and so like it's less of an advantage having it now. It's just kind of like the baseline. And so like if I take on something with a client, they'll just like send me a PSD and expect me to be able to open it. So like of course it's photoshopping. That's what we do. And so, you know, I see AI in this kind of a similar way. Is it's kind of the baseline now, and it can help you do some really cool stuff. It can help you come up with some ideas. It can help you research. It can help you maybe find an angle that you hadn't realized. But at the end of the day, you have to be really, really good about making sure that it's relevant to what you're trying to do. Um, I've seen in some environments like software development, for example, the policy being you can use something like this to help you code, but you are personally responsible for every line of code you submit. So you, as a human being, have to ultimately own up to any mistakes that are in there. And so just kind of think of it like that. Like it's, maybe it's a tool to help you find stuff, but don't shirk your responsibilities as a designer because you are the designer, and we want to see how you think.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we advocate at Sessions, is to really develop your core skills, and then on top of that you can use AI, but don't forget to be original and to be yourself and to develop something that you can bring to the picture. A similar question, but somewhat related, from Tatiana, who's also in the digital media program. She asked, if you're starting digital media today and you wanted to think about content platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, what advice do you have for people who are thinking about making it a steady, predictable income stream? In other words, monetizing it. Now, that might be a different question from how do I use it to promote myself as a professional. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, is that something you followed and you've got ideas about?
They all have different audiences. They'll have vastly different audiences. The audiences that you'll find on YouTube are different audiences you'll find on Facebook and Instagram. So it's kind of going to start there, right? Like it's the same in motion picture. Where like, well, who's the audience for this thing? And so, what are you trying to tell people? What is the value you're bringing, and who is the audience for that, and where is that audience, and reach them. And I know that sounds like way too simple because there's obviously a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of stuff just being thrown onto social media. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter because you watch videos and I watch videos, and that person that made that video, we watched their video. So someone's finding this stuff and someone's watching this because you care about it ultimately. And so, if you speak to the person that wants to hear what you're saying, then I think you could find them as long as you're kind of on the relevant platform. And as I say, this might get lost in analytics and stuff. I mean, that's so easy to do. We do a lot of analytics on the advertising side, and it's good, but it can also be false, misleading stuff sometimes where you kind of slice and dice demographics too narrow, and you start to come upon maybe just like random happenstance occurrences instead of like predictable growth indicators. And that, I think that kind of gets tricky because then you try to scale your platform and then it doesn't scale proportionally because humans can sometimes be a little unpredictable. And so, I say that's why I kind of bring it back to have something that's interesting and relevant and connect to the people who find that to be interesting and relevant, because then the platform's a little uh, less important. It's just a medium. The knowledge is what they're there for.
That's sort of a thread that's been running through your work, Dennis, is the idea of sort of designing for audiences. I was kind of fascinated by the idea that, recently you've been working on casual games and thinking about the audience and the experience that these people are having. And it's part of the same career where you're designing huge Rubik's cubes, in spaces. It's this same thing, only one is digital, one is a space. And you got, if you have some empathy for the audience or some desire to make it great or make a story, you're going to create content that people will enjoy.
Funny story about that Rubik's Cube picture I had. There's this big metal Rubik's Cube. It's like 15 feet wide. I didn't design or build that one. But there was a little tiny Rubik's Cube next to it on the podium. and you can solve that one. As you solve it, the big 15-foot one moves and turns, and it was really
Oh, nice.
kind of scary to see it.
That's really
I
cool.
I did all the
Whoa.
interactive computer stuff and touch tables and stuff all around it, but that thing was like, it was kind of scary to see it move. It was really cool. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I just remembered like, oh yeah, it's on tour.
I wonder what they did with it. I wonder
I
what
don't
they
know
did
where it
with it.
netted out, but it went on tour for like a long time.
Well, that's it. This has been awesome. This has been very inspiring, and thank you for connecting different phases of your career so thoughtfully. We're getting close to the end of the show, which is passing 5 o'clock on the west side of the country. Meryl, do you have any last questions for Deniz, or Dennis? Any last thoughts for aspiring creatives in the audience?
For me, when I'm listening to it, because again, you and I have had similar careers somewhat, designers, foundational skills leading to other things. It's really being open to the opportunity, and I think your career exemplifies that. And I would say that to our students or anyone watching: just be open to the opportunities. Not, oh, this was my big plan, and this isn't part of my big plan, or I'm too important to be doing this work. Because no, you get your foot in the door and you'll meet people that when they need somebody else, they're going to call you because they like you and they like working with you and you show up on time. So those simple soft skills with technical skills can make a big difference. And you emphasize that. So thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it.
Of course, and Meryl Gordon, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I am like so honored to be able to do this and share what I've done, and hopefully it's interesting. Thank you to all who watched and listened, and I hope this is useful for you. And if there's any questions or anything, I'm always try to help out or be available. But seriously, it's all the crazy random things that have kind of happened in my life weren't necessarily random. I really believe in the power of like creating your own luck by doing good work wherever you go. Like treat every job like it's your Super Bowl, and just kind of go out there and like and do a good job, even if it's not directly what you want to do, because it'll lead you to where you want to go. And it just reinstills that habit of working hard. And life is going to throw random opportunities at you. Trust your gut. If there's an opportunity and it comes your way, take it, run with it, see how you like it. And if you don't, that's okay. You're not stuck with it forever. You can, you know, move on good terms, move on, and your next thing will come, and just kind of let your life unfold. And I guarantee you'll look back and go, hey, that was kind of cool.
And be a reliable human that shows up on time and makes promises and fulfills them.
Very
I
important.
know that seems simple, but even if you find the work boring, you do it because could lead to something else, which is really great.
Absolutely.
So
Everything is important.
Fantastic. Well, these are words to live by. Whatever stage of your career you are at, these are words to live by.